Hello, everyone, and welcome to our September Media Club podcast. And this month, we are going to be discussing about wildfires and climate change.
Hi, my name is Isabel. I'm a junior and I go to OSHA.
Hello, my name is Grant O. I go to University High School.
I'm David and I go to Portola and I'm a sophomore.
Hi, I'm Grace. I go to Portola and I'm a junior.
Hi, I'm Christina and I go to Beckman and I'm a junior. And as California is currently experiencing a record heat wave, and we've recently reached the highest ever temperature of 121 Fahrenheit on Sunday. And these temperatures have led to drying bush and droughts, which in turn create the perfect recipe for devastating wildfires. So far, there have been reports of over 2 million burnt acres. In what ways have the recent wildfires affected you or your environment?
For me, I don't think it has really impacted my daily life. I would say it just puts more concern into, I guess how I see elder people. So for example, my grandma, my parents, already the coronavirus is something that you shouldn't really, just brush off. But this issue is kind of, I guess, just making it way more worse than before.
I actually thought at least in where I live, that there was a distinct difference than before. There's a lot of haze in the air, and even if you go on the weather app, you could see that there's haze, or it's always been showing unhealthy air quality. And then outside, the sky seems more orange and cloudy than before, and there's a lot of ash flying in the air too. So I think in general the air quality has gotten a lot worse.
Yeah, for me too, when I woke up, the sky was yellow, so I thought sun was rising, but it was the haze and ashes, so it just made me worried.
I don't think it's impacted me in a really, really big way, but I feel like it's as everyone said, the sky is a lot more hazier, there's a lot less sunlight, so I think it's throwing me off, at least time schedule wise. I'll be up in the morning, but it still feels kind of like nighttime, or it's still really dark outside. And I've also gotten kind of worried about opening windows, because I usually open a window in my room, but now I'm kind of double thinking about it, I guess.
Yeah, definitely. I see the orange haze, or it's kind of yellow haze outside. And when I go outside to maybe ride my bike, it's very prominent, and then I kind of start to wonder, why is it suddenly so dark? And I feel to be honest, where we live, it's not as in Irvine, it's not as significant of a haze, but I think I heard in the Bay Area, the sky looks really, really orange, and there's just a lot of smoke. I think we're pretty lucky to be in this part of Irvine that it's not as hazy, but it's still pretty hazy, and I feel because it's so dark, sometimes I just feel sleepy a lot because the skies are so dark, and it always feels like nighttime. Beyond these recent wildfires, what other effects of climate change have you recently noticed?
So I'm not sure if this is directly related to climate change, but I've noticed that the seasons are kind of shifting. So summer is coming a lot later every year. For right now it's September, but I feel temperature wise it's reaching hundreds, and then in June I think it was pretty low. So I think shift in season.
Yeah, adding on, I think summer's getting more hotter and winters are getting more colder.
I would say for me, it's not something I see every day, but I've read that climate change is also rising the sea level because it's causing glacier melting. So I mean, I feel that's a big problem that we're right now facing.
The rising sea level part, recently I went to the beach, and I definitely did notice that it seemed like the tide, maybe it was just high tide, but it really seemed like there was a very short layer of sand, and it kind of did seem like there were rising sea levels, I feel like, which was kind of worrying.
Yeah, I've also felt like summer was getting a lot more hotter, and I've always like kind of thought like how it's so weird how like where we kind of live and maybe probably everywhere else, how like summer seems to be coming later each year, and especially like this past week with the really intense heat wave, it was just really scary like stepping outside because the heat felt really heavy, especially, and I don't think it's ever been this hot here before, at least for me. So I feel like that's definitely evidence from like this like worsening climate change situation.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like this heat is like we are almost close. We're like close to autumn and it should be getting cooler, but the temperature is just it just seems like it's still getting hotter and it's still summer. So, well, Secretary Ryan Zink declared that the cause of Northern California fires have nothing to do with climate change, but more so to do with a lack of logging and clear cutting in forest areas, which means that there are more trees to burn, which causes the fires. While others, such as Governor Newsom of California, pin the wildfire activity to human-caused climate change. In your opinion, would you agree with either side? And if so, why?
I would say I agree with Newsom just because I know that deforestation is, I think, a cause of climate change. Like, I mean, cause of fires rather than the other way around. Because I heard that like when you clear like the forest, it produces greenhouse gases. Like it emits CO2, and it worsens like the wildfires around the world, basically. But I would say I agree with Newsom just because, like, there's evidence that CO2 emissions are rising because of like, cars and even like to massive scale, like nukes are, I guess they create a lot of emission in just like a huge tenfold or something.
Yeah, I would say that I mostly agree with Newsom too. I know that Ryan Zink said about cutting down trees. I don't think that not cutting down trees is the reason, but I do know that like sometimes weather and like abundance of dry vegetation can naturally cause wildfires, but in this case, I feel like a lot has to do with people's actions and like the way they're living. I know that a lot of people have started to kind of move towards more wildfire prone areas, which kind of increases the likelihood of them maybe like doing something or like sparking something that could cause a big fire. Like I know one of the big wildfires here was caused by like a gender reveal party, as mentioned before. And yeah, that would just be an example of like people's behaviors causing a wildfire.
I would
Yeah,
also add, oh,
uh,
sorry, my bad.
sorry. I also agree with Newsom that wildfires are are caused by climate change. Because I saw this post and it said like in 2019, like 110 acres burned because of the wildfires in California. And then this year, like the numbers leap to like 2.5 million or something like that. And like because climate change is like increasing every year, I think that has like a correlation.
So I was also going to add for Secretary Ryan Zink, he talks about deforestation. I would say that what he's really losing and he's like kind of overlooking is like the habitat of the animals that actually live in these forests. So I feel like he cares more about like human populations and like the existential threat of like human populations rather than like, for example, uh, like the habitats you see in the forest.
I kind of agree with Grant's point, and I think it's a pretty unique perspective because Ryan's opinion of how perhaps cutting down trees or logging, there are ways of logging that would help prevent wildfires, but I do think the consequences of logging and the decrease of ecosystems and habitats that would be caused by logging would be very high and not worth destroying the habitats of all these animals or things that live there or increasing climate change for trying to prevent wildfires.
Yeah, so exactly. So like basically like getting to the middle ground of everything.
As young people, how do you see climate change affecting your future?
It's obviously something to worry about because it's like statistically rising. So, but I know that Generation Z, which includes all of us, I know that I think 91% of Generation Z focuses on climate change. So, I mean, hopefully that means that there are going to be people out there, looking for a solution. So, I mean, it's not too much of a concern, but definitely it's something I will focus on.
Yeah, I think on social media you could see a lot of like environmental organizations are now like just starting to promote, and a lot of people, or as compared to before, a lot of people are increasingly becoming more aware that climate change is relevant and like it can affect our lives in the future. So while it is well, if we don't take action, it's definitely going to affect our lives in the future in a negative way. But seeing the trend right now, a lot of people are trying to help or take action. So I think, yeah.
And also like you can tell like the weathers are getting more severe. So like it makes me think that we gotta do something about climate change.
I can definitely see like there being a future threat to like air pollution, obviously, and I think as a generation we'll be more aware of the air quality that we breathe in, and we'll try to like be more conscious of our health in that matter. And I think there could also be like instances where food sources might get affected by worsening climate issues. But I think, as everyone said before, like as a generation, we're more conscious about this issue than probably like previous generations are. And I definitely see climate change taking a bigger presence in politics and other big like scenarios like that. And like in the past year, we've seen a lot of climate change protests and like activism, and I definitely see that increasing in the future as our generation gets older.
What steps as students can we perhaps take to help? And have any of you guys done any volunteering or taken any action to help with climate change? And if so, what have you done?
I mean, for me, I haven't taken any like action against climate change, but I mean, for my organization, I focus more on just like health and like health clinics. But I mean, I do know some people like prominent figures like Greta Thunberg, even though like her like measures to reduce CO2 emissions can be kind of absurd at sometimes. But I mean, I feel like it's kind of the whole issue is like making me want to like participate in these organizations just to, I don't know, better the world, I guess.
For me too, like I haven't really taken any actions, but I know there are some like environmental associations or organizations. So like I think I'll be glad to participate on some of it.
For me, I volunteer at an organization where we plant trees. So, like that's the only thing I can think of right now that I've taken action to help. But yeah.
Ooh, that's really cool. Is it like planting trees like around our community, or is it around here in Irvine, or is it in a different area?
Yeah, it's around here in Irvine, and like I go like once every 2 weeks.
Ooh, that's actually really cool. I think for me personally, I think I should take more steps to help, and I definitely should, but I haven't yet. But I think it's something that I am willing to do in the future.
For me, I guess I haven't taken any like really big or I guess like large grand scale actions other than just like independently doing my part, like trying to conserve as much of my energy and like looking out for my carbon footprint. But I definitely am interested in like taking part in like a bigger volunteer opportunities, or maybe even like a protest. Yeah, but I know there's a lot of clubs at school probably, and community service opportunities that kind of focus on giving back to the environment. I am interested in taking part in those kinds of things.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the fact of the matter is, you don't really need to join organizations just to like, I guess, make an impact on climate change. Obviously, it's like also for experience as well. But I mean, to be honest, basically we like ourselves are, I guess, kind of I see it as more of like you can be an organization yourself, like you can make a change for yourself. So I mean, you can speak up, you can reduce water waste, reduce food waste, like all those small things can make a huge impact in the future. But also like organizations can also help with that as well.
Yeah, I also agree with that. I think like when a lot of people saying like call to action or taking action, a lot of people think like really big things like founding an organization, like becoming a part of an organization or donating. But I think like you could say that you took action on climate change if you did the part for your own. So something like really simple things like conserving water, like saving energy, reducing waste. We might be doing it like habitually in our everyday that we don't even notice. And I think that's a big part for everyone too.